Hello everyone, welcome back with another hot episode of the Fighting and I podcast. So today we're going to talk about what was a pretty decent card, which was UFC 260. The card just gone, Stipe versus Francis 2. Talk about that a little later on. Some of the main fights we're going to break down is the big three: Miocic and Ngannou, Woodley and Luque, and also O'Malley and Almeida. We'll talk about a few other of the other prelim fights as well, but there just wasn't that much going on down in the prelims. Mostly a heavy card, a heavy top stacked card. But as there is no UFC this week, and it's Till versus Vettori the week after, I'm not going to talk about anything Till Vettori related on this podcast. It's going to be for next week's. I'm going to watch a few more fights. I'm going to watch a few fights of them of them both. Maybe a few of the fighters as well. Just give a bit more of a fight breakdown, and we'll talk about past the victory for both fighters, what each does well, and what each could do to capitalise on the other's mistakes. So that'll be next week's. So this week's might be a little bit short again, but easier to listen to. Anyway, let's talk about UFC 260. So there's a couple of decent-ish fights on the prelims to start off. It was Marc-Andre Barriault versus Abu Azaitar. It was a pretty decent fight, to be quite frank, quite back and forth for the first two rounds. And then Abu just got very gassed, very tired. You could just tell that he didn't have the cardio to keep going. And I believe Mark just took him down and spent, 4 minutes 30 in top mount, just ground and pounded him. There was literally about 5 seconds left and the referee stopped it, which is, he could have stopped it a little bit earlier, but what are you going to do? It's a pretty decent fight, to be quite frank, especially that third round. It was really good. Marc-Andre Barriault just showed that he's got a fantastic gas tank and really handled Abu on the ground, but did have a few problems with Abu's power at the start, and then with Abu's kicks as well. Abu seemed to generate a lot of power with his kicks, especially the leg kick. Was just slowly chopping Mark down, but he started to wean off it once he started to get a little bit gassed, and then just started trying to throw hands, which Mark was easily able to evade because of how tired Abu was, and then just took him down in the third, and then did him in top mount and got ground and pound finish with 5 seconds left. What else was oh yes, Khabib's family member, Abu Bakr Nurmagomedov beat Jared Gooden, and it was quite a good display for Nurmagomedov, because his fight just before this, I believe it was his debut, he got submitted by a triangle as he went in for a takedown, which is quite a disappointing loss, especially submission, as you from the famed Nurmagomedov family, which are just wrestle machines. To get submitted like that, it's got to be not the best. Got a big knock on your confidence. I think last time he fought was quite a while back. It was either UFC Russia or when Khabib fought when he fought Poirier in Abu Dhabi. I think it was UFC Russia, but I'm not 100% sure. But he looked really, really good. He kept it standing for the most part and really did well with his strikes. He hit Jared Gooden with a few head kicks throughout the first and second round, and he did lean on his wrestling in some instances, especially in the third round. Just took him down a little bit more, but he kept it striking, and his striking looked alright. It looked quite crisp. He didn't get hit with any big pot shots, or didn't get rocked or anything like that. He kept his composure and kept really calm. Got really, really comfortable, solid 3 rounds in, and showed that he can not only, like obviously the rest of the Dagestan breed of fighters that are coming out of Dagestan. Not only can they wrestle, they can strike as well. So a good win for Abu Bakr. I'll be interested to see who he fights next. That was in the welterweight division, so there's obviously a lot of possibilities for him. And then we got another Von Flue choke by not Ovens St. Preux, but the guy Ovens St. Preux knocked out. Alonzo Manifield got an Ovens St. Preux choke, but got a Von Flue choke, against Fabio Cherant, and that was in the first round. Alonzo just came out guns blazing. I think he pushed Fabio straight back to the cage instantly and just landed a huge right hook as he came in, and then took him down started to attempt the takedown, and then Fabio jumped on a guillotine, didn't really let it go, and just went down to the cage. Just didn't recognise when Alonso was sort of moving into that position to get that Von Flue choke, and it was quite a quick finish. A good bounce back for Alonso, coming obviously, like I said, coming off that knockout loss to Vincent Peru. Obviously, when St. Peru's touched him, he's given some of his Von Flue Peru choke powers and blessed Alonso. So that was in all honesty, it was pretty decent fight for Alonso. Pretty good, big boys choking people out with the collarbones and shoulder muscles. But then we move on to the main card. It was mainly finishes. It was 4 out of 5 finishes. The only fight that didn't get finished was the women's flyweight fight with Gillian Robinson and Miranda Maverick, which is actually quite a good fight, to be quite frank. I really enjoyed that. But we won't cover that much on it because I really want to talk about the top 3 because they're the big sexy boys. But Jamie Malarkey did get a beautiful KO with a left hook against Karma Worthy quite early. I think it was 46 seconds into the fight. He does like a really weird shift where he shifts in with a 1-2 and then throws the lead left hook. And he caught Karma Worthy just clean and sent Karma down, and then he followed up with ground and pound. There's not much really else to say about it. It was just really, really clean. Obviously, Jamie's last fight, I believe it was against Brad Riddell, which was a loss. A banger of a fight, mind you. It wasn't a bad performance for Jamie. It was back and forth quite a few times. And in that fight, he landed a few of those left hooks that he knocked out Karma Worthy with. In this fight, I had Karma Worthy with. But that was that fight. Jamie Malarkey looked great. That's in lightweight, obviously. Upsetting for Karma Worthy because he was on a little bit of a rise, but it's a tough loss that he'll probably definitely bounce back from. He's 16-8, so he's suffered the losses before. It's nothing he hasn't seen. But moving on to the start of the big 3, Sean O'Malley versus Thomas Almeida. Now, I was very intrigued for this fight for a few reasons. Thomas Almeida's inability to fight southpaw fighters and switch stance fighters, and Sean O'Malley's weak ankle. Now, I don't mean weak as in like you touch it and it goes down, but in the fight with Andrei Sukumtsov, he broke his ankle, and then in the fight with Chito Vera, his nerve got jammed or wherever it was, he says. And then in this fight itself, it looked a few times like he rolled it or it sort of wobbled and he stumbled a bit. Now, whether that was the cage, because a few fighters slipped and Thomas Almeida also slipped on the cage as well, was, his footwork was a little bit slippery, if you will. He slipped a few times and things like that. So I was really interested for this fight for those reasons. Obviously, Thomas has been on a bit of a, well, not even been, he's on a rough streak now, unfortunately. He's lost 4 in a row. He was a really promising up-and-comer at bantamweight, and Sean just looked really, really sharp. He mixed in his feints really, really well, as he always does. A lot more of that exaggerated head feint where he flicks his head like all the way to the right, but still keeps his eyes on his opponent. He's just got a really interesting fight style because he fights perfectly from both stances and mixes it up in the fight as well. He doesn't stick to one stance. He'll hit you with 2 jabs from southpaw, and then he'll switch into like a hook uppercut combo from orthodox. It looked extremely good. There was a few combinations that Sean landed that made me just went, oh. Particularly there was a couple, but one of the biggest ones that I saw, which, well, 2 of the biggest ones, if you will, but one of the ones that really made me go yeah. Sean landed a beautiful leg kick and then went to throw another one again, even lifted his leg up, but then changed the trajectory mid-air and then pushed, hit Thomas Almeida with a beautiful push kick from that, sort of like a question mark kick in, but from the leg into a push kick to the midsection. His striking is insanely creative. He doesn't hunt one particular area. He'll just go all over. He'll just dot, and he also has a lot of power in bantamweight, and he's quite long and quite tall. So he can he can hit at range, stick and move really well, but he doesn't look too bad when you're coming in as well. When you saw it, if you keep him pressured. It was just a really good performance for Sean. Often and early, he started landing body kicks, just sort of normal traditional kicks at start, but then he mixed it up in round 1 with a beautiful spinning body kick that you could hear that Almeida go, oof, It was it was a big old kick, and it connected clean. Shortly after those exchanges, it sort of, Sean was pretty much dominated the half the first round, and then I think it's at 2 minutes 4 seconds. Sean fakes, I think he fakes the right hand, and then ducks with the roundhouse and catches Thomas Almeida clean on the temple, and then lands a left hand just as Thomas has sort of got up from the rock, or recovered a little bit from the rock. He got hit with the left from Sean, and then Sean just walked away, tried to get the walk off KO, but Thomas Almeida just popped straight back up, and the ref was like, "No, it's still going." He just carried on basically for another round and a half, just picking Thomas Almeida apart with kicks, kicks, knees, punches. He was so elusive. He just looked fantastic. Like I said, yeah, round two was just more of the same. Sean picking Almeida apart with the long distance strikes, showing different looks with the feints and the switch stance. And like I said before, that's one thing that we've seen Thomas Almeida struggle with in the past, is when he's fighting the orthodox, he's more than happy to close the range and get in and get dirty. But when it's southpaw, he struggles getting in and coming in close at range. And it showed in this fight as well. All of his losses have come from people who mix up switch striking very well, who will enter in one stance, throw with the other, and then just dip off. And then obviously Sean is like a master of that on Saturday night. It was such a good performance. The only issue is, it's just when Sean O'Malley speaks, he's just such a fucking wet wipe. That's the only issue. He used to be pretty chill, and then he just started trying to be like woke and weird, and he's just fucking. It's a cool fight, don't get me wrong. His hair's cool, but he just needs to chill out a bit. The fight ended up being obviously a Sean O'Malley KO. I thought it was going to decision, but Sean, as Thomas was coming in for a bit of a bull rush, Sean switched stance and just fired a left straight right down the middle, which caught Almeida clear. Then Almeida stumbled into Sean. Sean pushed him down, did the walk off again, and then decided to be like, nah. Came back and threw like the fucking, well, not one of the biggest, because the biggest is 2 fights above this card, but one of the more powerful finish up shots in bantamweight, just clean, straight from full standing, just jumped down and went bang with his left straight into Thomas Almeida's like face, and that was after that the fight was over. It was a fucking barn burner. It was a great, well, it was that barn burner because it wasn't back and forth. It was pretty much all Sean, which is good to see for him, because obviously his ankle looked a little bit weird in times in this fight. He suffered with an ankle in his previous fight against Chito Vera, and obviously the Andrei Sukumtov win, he injured his ankle really badly hurt his ankle. So I'm hoping the ankle's okay. It was just went dead a few times, wasn't too bad. It didn't look too bad, it looked fucking great. But I'm hoping it doesn't cause any sort of huge problems down the line, or sort of, flare up, or be one of those untreated injuries. I hope it gets it sorted quickly, and he gets back in as soon as possible, because I do really enjoy watching him fight. I really do enjoy watching him fight. On to the second big boy, the second of the big three. Tyron Woodley versus Sinte Luque. Whoo. Oh. Okay. Firstly, Woodley did the one thing that everybody in his corner asked him to do, which is come out swanging, and he still lost. But it was the best he's looked in terms of his striking and his ability to pull the trigger since Darren Till, which was, I think it was 2018, so 3 years ago now. It was, for as long as it lasted, it was a crazy fight. As soon as the bell started, Tyron just run straight forward into the centre of the cage and just tried to smack Luque with a right hand. It sort of grazed off his guard and just went a little bit behind the head, didn't do too much damage, but then Tyron locked up the clinch and pushed him all the way back to the cage, and there was a little bit of a to and fro in the clinch, but once they broke, Tyron hit Luque with an overhand right just behind the ear, and Luque sort of like dipped and his leg went weird, but then he just fucking postured straight back up, just turned around and started marching towards Tyron. And then Tyron, as Tyron was sort of throwing strikes and trying to carry on the momentum of the Rock, Vicente countered back with a overhand right of his own and rocked Tyron, and really, really rocked Tyron. It didn't just it wasn't like a, ooh, and then he's back up. It was pretty much done from that minute on. As soon as it connected, his legs went completely stiff. He just Bambi ran all the way to the back of the cage, and put his back, and then he just stood there like he'd finished the fight, holding the cage. But all credit to him, when Vicente came in, he started trying to swing again and was just trying to throw hooks, anything that would land on Vicente Luque, but Luque was too fresh, and Tyron was definitely the more hurt fighter. But he did look really good considering he lost. Just before the end of the fight, Tyron again tried to obviously bounce off the cage and throw like a massive overhand right, but Vicente just caught him with a left hook. With a hook, and then he went down to the cage. And then Vicente, like a fucking killer he is, followed him up, locked in the Darce, and then shortly after the fight was over. But yeah, Vicente with the Darce choke submission. Funnily enough, Tyron's last win was the Darce choke. Darren Till, so had the torch been passed. Upsetting, really, really upsetting to see, because Tyron was doing everything right in terms of his striking, but the only thing he let slip was his defence. He got too overzealous and too crazy, and didn't. When Vicente was hurt, he could have took his time and just mixed in a few different strikes as opposed to just going, full Rochambeau to the brain, to Vicente's brain. But it's a huge win for Vicente, a huge win. We've seen people beat Tyron, and they go up to the upper echelon of that welterweight division, and now we get to see Vicente slotted up there and see what he's going to do. I'd really love to see it. I don't want him to fight Gilbert Burns because I can't deal with a heartbreak again after Kamaru and Gilbert, and that shit that broke my heart. I can't watch another two good friends kill each other. I won't do it. I might do it, but I probably won't. What I do want to see is Luque versus Covington, or even Luque versus Mike Chiesa. That would be quite a good fight for Luque. Leo Chiesa on a bit of a streak of his own. Tyron, I don't really know. On all honesty, I'd retire now. I think he's 38. Before he can retire, he might get cut. Now he's lost 4-3 by dominant decision, 1 by submission. He's been outworked in his last 4 fights. So he could be knocking on the door of Bellator anytime soon. But yeah, that was Woodley v Luque. Good fight. I'd go back and watch that. I just did, and it was fucking great. I recommend going back and watching that 100%. And then finally, the big boy main event, the one that was for all the heavyweight marbles. I was so excited, I was so nervous, I barely spoke, and I was in Discord with one of my friends for the whole time it was on. It's very, very quiet because I just didn't know what to expect. I know I said in my previous podcast, we've not seen a lot of improvement from Francis, and I do want to say that was wildly incorrect. But let me explain why I thought the way I did, because if you look at Francis' fight against Jazier Rosenstrike, he just bull rushed him. He took one leg kick and was like, nope, and then just marched forward with 4-5 hooks, and then caught Jairzinho. Whether that was his game plan, because obviously it's a smaller cage, I don't know. But you look at that fight and you think, oh shit, he's digressed back into what he was when he fought Stipe the first time, when he was just wild and didn't look composed. And we've not seen him wrestle. We've not seen his grappling skills tested since the Stipe fight, which is obviously a washout for him. But fucking hell, I was completely incorrect. Francis looked... he looked insane. He was extremely calm for the entirety of this fight. Extremely composed, just extremely technical. He really cut the cage well with Stipe. Stipe likes to obviously move to the left and right around the cage, on the edges of the cage, and Francis was just cutting him off, timing it with leg kicks with the low calf kick, and also into more of the meat of the thigh, and offsetting Stipe's sort of rhythm, offsetting his movement. And he landed a few of those leg kicks, which really caught Stipe a few times. Not only that, when he was striking, he was picking his strikes extremely well. He wasn't marching forward with like huge winging, punches. It was fundamentals. You were seeing like 1-2s, maybe jab and a hook, but he just looked really good. All his combinations were clean. They were tight. He didn't overexert himself in any of them. He just looked fucking great. And then he mixed it up to the body as well. You see it a few times. He'd throw the jab or throw the straight to the body. Again, just to just to give Stipe different looks, which is already a massive improvement from what we'd seen in the Stipe fight and even the Jairzinho fight. He looked insanely insanely zen. He just looked just really calm and focused. And then what we all expected, Stipe shot in for the first takedown. He tried to shoot a single leg, but again, Francis defended it, and he defended it immaculately. As soon as Stipe got hold of his leg, Francis moved back to the cage. He pushed Stipe's head down so he couldn't get it any higher to initiate the finishing sequence of the takedown, and then sort of circled out from Stipe and then put his arm around Stipe's hips and dragged him down himself. Went to backside, Stipe got up, and Francis took him down and fucking landed like, I don't know, what, 8 or 9 unanswered Francis Ngannou strikes, which Stipe just ate clean. It was crazy. Francis took Stipe down and then mauled him while Stipe was trying to get up and recover. And like I said, Stipe just took every single one of these shots and just ate every single one and then broke off and tried to reset. And you'd think after that success, you'd expect, Francis to bull rush and start stomping, marching forward to Stipe and throwing those big bombs for the knockout. But nope. As soon as Stipe broke off from the clinch, Ngannou just slowly walked over to the center of the cage again, reset, and then just started with the pressure, throwing in feints, and then he faked an overhand, and then ducked into a roundhouse, a lead leg roundhouse from Francis. It was fucking crazy. You don't see that shit from Francis. You think, and it landed on Stipe as well. Sort of like just the front half of the foot caught Stipe clean on the chin. And again, Stipe just fucking ate it and moved forward. Stipe looked a little bit gun shy, which is weird because obviously Stipe was the one that made Francis gun shy after dealing with him in the first fight, and then in this fight it was Francis making Stipe gun shy. He wasn't moving. Well, he wasn't moving forward. He wasn't throwing as many strikes as you'd expect. He threw one takedown, that was it. Maybe he was deteriorated, obviously, from taking all that punishment from the first takedown, but he just didn't look like his original self. He did say in his Instagram post, in his response, that he did deviate from the game plan, so I would like to know, well, we're never going to know, but I would have liked to know what the game plan was, because he didn't look that good, but Francis looked fucking immaculate. In the first round alone, even if Francis was then to lose the second and lose the fight, just the first round showed how much he'd improved from their first fight, with how calm he was, that first stuff for the takedown, and what he was able to do off that takedown, taking him down himself, and then landing significant unanswered shots, 8 or 9 in a row on Stipe's chin clean. When it was the first fight, it was Francis standing in the middle of the cage throwing wombo combos, and Stipe just being like, nope, and taking him down, and then just mauling him. when the second round came around, we just saw more patient Francis, which it resulted in a knockout. He faked the jab, moved into a straight, and caught Stipe clean on the chin, and Stipe went arse into the cage. He did do all right. He got straight back up. Francis landed one or two shots, and just as they broke, Francis landed a lead uppercut. Just as they broke the clinch, but Francis again started to fall. He didn't chase or run down or run Stipe down. He just slowly marched forward. I think he tried to throw something, and Stipe countered with a beautiful. Well, it wasn't beautiful. With a clean right hand on Francis, and then Francis reset. And then I think Stipe must have thought that hurt him because he rushed forward, went to throw a jab, and then as he was throwing that jab, Francis just unleashed the lead check hook from hell and knocked him down. It was an awful fall as well. Obviously his leg. You don't like to see people fall like that because it just looks fucking horrendous. But on top of that, after that, the referee couldn't get there on time, which is one thing I do want to say. No issue with Herb Dean because he shouted before he got down to Stipe, stop, the fight's over to Francis. Obviously in the heat of the moment you're not really going to hear that and you're going to follow up, so I don't blame Francis, but don't blame Herb either because it's not Herb's fault. Herb did everything he did. He shouted to Francis that the fight was over and then he tried his best to get there in time. He's not a fucking teleporter, he's not a jumper. Oh, bless him. He gets a bad rap, our Herb. He has made some terrible mistakes, but not last night. Saturday was not one of them. Saturday was not one of them. But yeah, that was the fucking fight. I mean, what can I say about calm, patient Francis? He looked like a fucking world killer. Obviously, John Jones had his little fucking hissy fit on Twitter now. Somebody's won and he's not being mentioned as cool anymore. And personally, I don't care about John Jones at heavyweight. I want to see Francis and Lewis too. Before you judge me because of the first fight, Francis isn't gun shy anymore. Francis is calm in the Francis is not. He's not crazy with his cardio either. He's probably the best version. He is the best version of Francis we've ever seen him in his career. And I'd love to see him fight Lewis again because I just think a second time around, both fighters would. First of all, obviously a second time around after the first one, you don't want to repeat the first fight. So both fighters are going to have that weight on their shoulders, and also it's for the belt and how good both fighters have looked. I just think it'd be a great fight. It gives Francis to avenge the only other loss he's got in the UFC. You could have like a GSP story. GSP lost to Matt Hughes, then beat Matt Hughes. He lost to Matt Serra, then beat Matt Serra. Francis lost to Stipe, beat Stipe. Francis lost to Lewis, beats Lewis? Question mark. Could he be the GSP of heavyweight? Could we see Francis Ngannou now become the wrestler of the heavyweight division and start to out wrestle people and have the best jab and Superman punch and just be one of the best all rounded fighters in the heavyweight division? I don't know. We might do. I mean, he tried to take Stipe down again in the fight. So he tried 2 takedowns and one of them was successful on Stipe. It's crazy. It's fucking crazy. But that's it, really, in terms of the fights for the last card, which is 260. Like I said, due to this week not being any UFC, I'm going to hold off on any sort of Vittori until next week. In the meantime, what I'll do is I'll watch a few fights for both fighters. And I'll also have a look on the card as well, see what other fights. I might tickle my fancy and have a look at a few of their fights as well. And then I'll break it all down next Wednesday. But thank you very much for listening. I appreciate you all dearly. Anyone who likes my podcast, even listens to it, whether it be a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, the whole thing. The support alone and just the fact that you listen to it is more than enough for me. So thank you very much, everyone, again. Good night. Well, it will be good night because this comes out at 12 on a Wednesday. Fuck that up, didn't I? Anyway, my name's Kane, and heavyweights beware. Cam Francis is here. Tutty buys.